Coming up on this Tuesday edition of Daybreak, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's special envoy is set to arrive in Moscow for a week-long trip to Russia as Pyongyang seeks to bolster bilateral ties amid its soured relations with China. All 15 convicted crew members of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry, including the captain, lodge appeals against their sentences. Plus, a Frenchman and 2 men from Britain are believed to be among the killers on an Islamic State propaganda video showing a beheaded American aid worker and the deaths of more than a dozen Syrian soldiers. Daybreak begins now. Hello and thanks for joining us. To our viewers around the world, it's 6 a.m. on Tuesday, November 18th. Here in Seoul, I'm Mark Broome, and you're tuned in to Daybreak. Our top story this morning, the special envoy for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is expected to arrive in Moscow within the hour. Arirang was originally scheduled to arrive in the Russian capital on Monday afternoon local time, but he was reportedly forced to return to Pyongyang due to plane trouble. The unforeseen delay is likely to push back planned talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin that were thought to be set for later this Tuesday. There is speculation that Che will pass on a personal letter from Kim Jong-un if he meets with Putin. During his 8-day trip, Che is expected to discuss ways to boost economic and political ties between the two countries, as well as Pyongyang's nuclear program. Now, it's the generally considered view that North Korea-China relations have deteriorated since Kim Jong-un assumed power in the north 3 years ago. One of the reasons why Arirang has headed to Russia. And another huge indication of this is a multi-million-dollar bridge, which was supposed to boost trade between North Korea and China, but has been sitting idle long after its scheduled opening date. Our Park Ji-won reports.
This is the new Yalu River Bridge, linking the northeastern Chinese city of Tandong to North Korea's border city of Sinŭiju. The 3-kilometer-long structure was scheduled to open late last month, but Chinese state media reports the opening has been pushed back indefinitely. China footed the entire cost of the $350 million project, expecting the bridge to boost bilateral trade. But after 4 years of work, facilities and roads linking the bridge into the border cities remain unfinished. Satellite images taken in September also show that North Korea hasn't started building customs facilities. Compared to pictures taken in October of last year, we see no improvements at all. In fact, some buildings have been torn down during the time.
China and North Korea delayed laying roads linking the bridge to the cities because Beijing is not happy with Pyongyang's nuclear programs, and North Korea is unhappy with its current relationship with Beijing. I don't think the bridge will open until the latter half of next year.
Watchers say the hold-up completing the bridge, which was supposed to handle some 80% of goods passing between both countries, reflects the sour relations between the once strong allies. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, the United States government says U.S. troops based in Japan will automatically be deployed to the Korean Peninsula in the event of a contingency without prior consultations with Tokyo. Citing a statement released by the State Department, Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency reports that Washington is prepared to carry out all obligations under its bilateral security treaty and joint operational plans with South Korea. This statement contradicts Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe's remarks at a parliamentary session in July, where he said US forces Japan must seek Tokyo's understanding before sending any Marines to the Korean Peninsula. South Korea's rival parties have agreed on 3 welfare revision bills that will expand the number of people entitled to social security benefits. The National Assembly's Health and Welfare Committee on Monday reached an agreement on revisions to the National Basic Living Security Act, the Emergency Aid and Support Act, and a motion to create a law that will support more people with social security provisions. The agreement came after the ruling Saenuri party accepted the main opposition party's proposal that the revisions will require an additional $230 million in government funding. The ruling party had been arguing before that the additional funds should not exceed $180 million. The committee will hold a vote on the agreement on Friday. All 15 crew members of the sunken Sewol-ho ferry, including the captain, Lee Jun-sok, have appealed against their guilty verdicts for doing nothing to save the passengers in that deadly sinking. The Gwangju District Court said on Monday that Lee submitted a request for an appeal with the court, while some of the other crewmen finished their process late last week. Now, Lee Jun-sok, the captain, was sentenced to 36 years in prison, and 14 other crew members were given jail sentences ranging from 5 to 30 years. State prosecutors, who had demanded the death penalty for the captain, who you can see there, also filed an appeal last week, calling the ruling regrettable. More than 300 people, including a great many high school students, died when the ferry capsized in waters of Korea's southwestern coast on April 16th. Now, the week got off to a very exciting new start for foreign investors as the Shanghai-Hong Kong stock link opened on Monday, and this gives people around the world access to 560 mainland China shares. And while the joining of these exchanges is a very important development on its own, it's also symbolic of the deep financial reforms that are underway inside of China these days. Our Kim Jong-un reports.
On the first day of trading at the newly launched Shanghai-Hong Kong Stock Connect, global investors poured money into Chinese stocks, filling the daily quota of $2.1 billion. It wasn't a full opening, but the new trading link gave international investors greater access to China's domestic stock market. They are now allowed to buy and sell over 550 of the largest A-grade shares listed in Shanghai directly via the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. The trading volume was higher for investors with Hong Kong accounts buying shares in mainland China, rather than the other way around. Previously, only institutional investors with a secured quota from the Chinese government could invest directly in the country's domestic markets. But the new scheme is making foreign investment in the mainland a lot easier. And overseas investors are already flocking in.
Around 150,000 people opened investment accounts in just one day. We expect more security agencies to open accounts for their clients over the next few days.
China's finance ministry announced that foreign investors will also enjoy personal income tax exemptions on profits from investments through the Connect program for the next 3 years. Kim Jong-un, Arirang News.
And staying with regional economic news, and huge news out of Japan on Monday, because Japan's economy has unexpectedly slipped into recession. And this is setting the stage for Prime Minister Shinzo Abe to call a snap general election. And sources in Japan say Abe plans to schedule the election for December 14th, so within the next month or so. Our Song Ji-son reports.
Japan slipped into an unexpected recession in the third quarter after logging negative growth for the second consecutive quarter. The world's third largest economy marked negative 1.6% growth for the July to September period, far below the market expectation of a 2.1% bump. In macroeconomics, 2 or more consecutive quarters of economic contraction typically signals recession. While exports and consumer spending returned to gains last quarter, they weren't strong enough to offset the impact of a slump in stocks of unsold goods, which means companies can't move forward with additional production. This follows an over 7% yearly drop in the second quarter, recorded right after Tokyo hiked its sales tax from 5% to 8% in April. That was the biggest fall since Japan's deadly earthquake and tsunami in March 2011. Monday's figures pushed the benchmark Nikkei down nearly 3% to just below 17,000, with the Japanese yen exchanging at a 7-year low at lower than 117 yen against the greenback during trading. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe is widely expected to call a snap election as early as mid-December, in hopes of delaying an increase in the sales tax to 10% next year. The hike was legislated by the previous administration to curb Japan's huge public debt. Japanese lawmakers say postponing the planned increase by a year and a half could add about 0.5% to growth. 송지선, 아리랑 뉴스.
Well, it's time now for a look through the global headlines we're following on this Tuesday morning here in Korea. For that, we turn to Eunice Kim, standing by the news center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Mark. Authorities are taking a closer look at the latest propaganda video released by the group calling itself the Islamic State, and some are zoning in on the European faces among the group of knife-wielding extremists. France's interior minister said on Monday that intelligence analysis showed a strong possibility that a 22-year-old French citizen named Maxime Hauchard took place in what he called despicable crimes featured in the clip. Released over the weekend, the video showed the slayings of who it said were Syrian Air Force members and the aftermath of executed American humanitarian aid worker Peter Kassig. There are also indications that 2 Britons were among the killers, including a medical student from Wales. The jihadist group have executed nearly 1,500 people in Syria over the 5 months since it declared establishing a caliphate, according to the monitoring group, the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, who also said more than 60% were civilians. Cell phone video taken moments after Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 was shot down over a rebel-held region of eastern Ukraine has emerged. It shows heavy plumes of black smoke billowing in the village of Hrabov as residents carefully approach the crash site. Some could be heard searching for the pilot, presumably with the assumption that the airliner had been another Ukrainian plane shot down. The Malaysian airliner bound for Kuala Lumpur from Amsterdam was shot down on July 17th, killing all 298 passengers on board. A surgeon who had been flown into the U.S. from Sierra Leone for Ebola treatment has died. 44-year-old Martin Salia was undergoing treatment at Omaha's University of Nebraska Medical Center. Hospital officials say the Sierra Leonean citizen and resident of Maryland was already 13 days into the disease and in critical condition when he arrived on Saturday. Dr. Salia received a blood plasma transfusion from an Ebola survivor as part of his treatment, as well as the experimental drug Z-Map provided by the manufacturer. He is the 10th Ebola patient to be treated on American soil. And finally, Pope Francis has revealed that he will make his first trip to the United States as pontiff next year, with a stop at a triennial conference in Philadelphia. The World Meeting of Families, which celebrates the importance of families, takes place in the city of brotherly love in September of 2015. The city's mayor called it a joyous day, saying the visit will mark Philadelphia's largest event in its modern history. It will be Philadelphia's second papal visit after Pope John Paul II celebrated Mass in the city back in 1979.
We start before the sun rises to bring you the latest stories out of Korea. We also lead the way with important global coverage. Stay on the pulse of what is happening with Daybreak.
Now, Korea is taking inspiration from other countries around the world in a bid to turn itself into a gateway for global food exports in Northeast Asia. There's a $500 million project about to start, and it's expected to provide a new source of economic growth for the country and hopefully thousands of new jobs. Our Kim Min-ji reports.
Korea has set its sights on the food industry as a new growth engine for the economy and is seeking to develop itself into a hub for the Northeast Asian food market. The Korea National Food Cluster, or Food Palace as it's called, is part of the Korean government's plan to build a food industrial complex that will facilitate business and research activities and become a convenient gateway for global exports. Located in Iksan, Jeollabuk-do province, the site is near major air and seaports and can be easily accessed by the capital via bullet train. And with its proximity to major markets like China and Japan, the government expects a $500 million project to have a substantial economic impact.
The Korea National Food Cluster is expected to generate over $13 billion in sales, facilitate $3 billion in exports, and create 22,000 new jobs a year when it reaches full operation in 2020.
The government has so far signed memorandums of understanding with over 100 local and foreign companies and plans to lure more businesses and investors with incentives such as tax exemptions and state subsidies. Experts, however, say more needs to be done to attract local conglomerates, as foreign companies would prefer to enter Korea through partnerships with domestic firms to hedge risks and costs. They add that participation of universities is also needed to foster talent, and that firms outside of food companies, like those that specialize in consulting or distribution, should be involved as well to create synergy. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now, research labs and local businesses have uncovered a new source of revenue: medicinal ingredients repurposed for use in cosmetics. The production period is relatively short and the applications are numerous. Our Paul Lee reports.
This laboratory develops clinical medicines derived from organic materials. Scientists here trying to create functional materials that are good for the body using components extracted from medicinal herbs. Their ultimate goal is to develop new types of medicines, but 30% of the experimental substances they create end up being used as ingredients for new cosmetics. Not only does this keep the products from going to waste, but it's a boon for the lab. Compared to medicines and other health-related products, cosmetics can be made in a relatively short period of time and have several applications.
Cosmetics bring greater rewards and have more growth potential than medicinal products as they take less time to develop.
The lab developed a functional material that was distributed to 10 local mid-sized firms, which produced sales of $21 million last year alone. And sales are expected to grow 13% this year. Korean cosmetics and skincare products have been drawing attention worldwide for their high quality and power to improve the appearance, with a number of Korean cosmetic brands having entered the Chinese market.
We want to promote the high quality and function of Korean cosmetics by allowing Chinese customers to experience and use the products firsthand.
These days, many local mid-sized companies are benefiting from the transformation of functional substances into cosmetics, allowing the companies to expand their business around Korea and beyond. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
And a good Tuesday morning to you all as we kick things off with the South Korean national football team, who's set to face off against Iran later tonight. And after a sloppy 1-0 victory over Jordan last Friday, this match is going to be a lot tougher. Now, with the 66th ranked Korean national football team facing off against the highest ranked Asian nation at 51st overall, the Taeguk Warriors have a losing record in the 27 matches they've played, with 9 wins, 7 draws, and 11 losses. Now, at the same time, Korea has yet to win a single match at away in Iran in the past 40 years, as manager Uli Stilke hopes to win their first later tonight. And unlike the match against Jordan, both Ki Sung-young and Son Heung-min are set to start in this match, hoping to give boost to the Korean offense. And now moving over to the LPGA, it took 9 long years, but Korean-American Christina Kim finally won an LPGA title over the weekend at the Lorena Ochoa Invitational. And it wasn't an easy one for the 30-year-old, as she finished off the 18th hole tied for first at 15 under par with China's Shen Chen-feng. And after a par putt on the second sudden death playoff hole, she was able to finally win her first LPGA title in 9 years and her third overall. Meanwhile, world number 1 Park In-bi, who finished in third place, now trails Stacey Lewis by 3 points in the Player of the Year race, with the final event coming up this week at the CME Group Tour Championship. Now moving over to the 2014-2015 ISU Short Track World Cup, where the second stage of the season took place in Montreal, Canada. And as for Korea's Shim Seok-ki, she's doing what she does best, win gold medals. Now competing in the women's 1,000-meter event, the 17-year-old Olympic gold medalist comes in first with a final time of 1 minute 30.641 seconds for yet another gold medal. The gold medal finish gives her her 12th straight World Cup event with a gold medal. Now, meanwhile, over on the men's 1,000-meter competition, Shin Da-eun continues the success, adding to the Korean gold medal tally as well. Now, move over Spider-Man, because Korea has their own wall-climbing star, except we'd call her Spider-Woman. 26-year-old Kim Jong-un, who had an incredible season in sports climbing, concluded her 2014 season ranked #1 in the latest World Cup ranking and the world ranking for the second straight year. Now, she enjoyed one of the best seasons ever, becoming the first Asian climber to win the World Championships earlier this year. And now finishing things off in baseball, former Major League pitcher Sonny Kim, a.k.a. Kim Sun-woo, announced his retirement on Monday. The 37-year-old, who played his final season with the LG Twins this year, announced his retirement after his memorable career in both the majors and the KBO. The righty signed with the Boston Red Sox back in 2000 and played for 4 other Major League teams, finishing off with a record of 13-13, mostly as a reliever. Now, he would play 7 seasons in the KBO, 6 of which were with the Doosan Bears, finishing his KBO career with a winning record of 57-46. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Good morning. Well, temperatures dropped to a freezing side again here in Seoul, kicking off at -1, and wind chill is adding a more chill to the air. So be sure to dress warmly before heading out today. And it will be sunny throughout the day, but thick fog can be seen in Seoul and the surrounding areas in the morning hours. So drive with extra caution out on the roads, and dry weather continues in some parts of the east as the dry weather advisory is still in place, so be extra cautious again when handling fires. And plenty of sunshine will send the temperatures to what it was like yesterday this afternoon, hovering 10 or just above. So let's take a closer look at the readings for today. Now, the daily low in Seoul started out at -1, then the daytime high will rise to 10, while Daegu tops out at 13, and Gwangju and Busan will climb to 12 and 15 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island and Daejeon will be getting up to 14 and 11 later on, and Dokdo should see a high of 10. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Okay, well, that's going to do it for now. Korea Today is coming up at the top of the hour, 7 a.m. Korea time. Have a great day or night wherever you're watching us, and we'll see you later. Goodbye.